Today we're visiting with Cathy Lindauer. She's a longtime member of Hope United Methodist Church. She and her husband John joined the church in December of 1979. And Cathy, tell us what you remember about that original building that we call Schultz Fellowship Hall and when you worshiped there.
Well, I remember one thing, and that was going in the door that we all go into, but it really wasn't the main entrance to the church. It was around where we now have the memorial garden.
That's right.
And nobody ever, to my knowledge, ever went that far down to go into church. They always went into that side door. I just remember what it just seemed very fresh, and even though we were happy where we had been in Littleton, but it was just nice to find a church that was close to home and people were friendly.
And I believe you told me you lived just blocks away?
Yeah, we just lived a block away.
Well, in those years, Alton Brown and Victor Schultz were the pastors. Do you remember Victor Schultz?
I remember Victor very much.
Tell us what you remember about him.
Oh, he was so friendly, and he was so good about visiting people. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to be visited by pastors, but he was wonderful. Yeah, I enjoyed his visits. I was sorry that John wasn't there, because he was always at work. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, Victor Schultz had come out of retirement, I believe, to be the visitation pastor for this new church and to help Al Brown. And that he took that job seriously. He did visit with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do you remember Alton Brown?
I remember him, and I remember liking him. I don't have a lot of memories now of anything special, other than when he became ill and then he had to leave, and we all felt so sad about that.
Yes.
But we liked him very much.
Well, that original building, the Schultz Fellowship Hall, was the only building, so it served many purposes for classrooms and for choir practice and for worship. You remember worshiping in that fellowship hall?
Oh yes, that was church.
And there weren't any pews.
No, we had chairs. Yeah, had to bring in chairs for people, and yeah, no, it was a very different look. Although, as I remember, there was something on the wall.
There was a cross that lit up.
That's right.
It had lights in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I believe they had some risers for the choir and maybe for the pastor and a lectern.
Probably, yeah.
But they were all temporary. You could move them.
Away.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of a multi-purpose room, I think.
Yes. And do you remember before the parking lot was paved?
I don't.
Yeah. Some people have told stories about walking through the mud to get from where they parked their cars because the building was there, but the parking lot had not been completed until sometime later.
Yeah.
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 Well, after Al Brown was there, Dr. Vickery, Richard Vickery was the pastor. Do you recall Dick Vickery?
Oh, yeah, I have 86 to 90, so he wasn't there very long.
Well, after Dr. Vickery, Sam Day came. Do you remember him?
Oh, no, Sam.
Yes.
He was wonderful.
Do you have memories of Sam Day?
Oh. I just remember the wonderful sermons, and he and his wife were so a part of Hope, and not that other preachers weren't a part, but I think everybody there just loved him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his wife Barbara was quite active.
Was very, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of his sermons?
Not specifically.
Well, you and John were quite involved in the activities of the church. Tell me some of the things that you did and
Yeah.
John did for the church.
Well, I had been a church school teacher for years in Portland, and so I was interested in the children's education, and so I worked a lot with Carol Bruton, actually,
Yes.
on the education committee, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I don't know, then I remember being on a committee, and I believe it was when Sam was the pastor, and we worked at recruiting people to be on committees and be chairman and, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And then I made coffee.
For
We
years
made
and
coffee
years.
for years. Started in the little tiny kitchen and then moved to the big one.
Yes. And your husband John preceded me as the historian of Hope Church.
Absolutely, yeah.
Remember when he was the historian?
Yeah, and I can remember helping him put the scrapbooks together.
Yes. We still have them.
Oh, do you really?
Yes, we do.
I wondered if they'd been maybe copied and then turned, torn up or something.
Well, that's one of my projects, is to digitize some of those old scrapbooks. We can now scan those or take pictures of those and have a digital record. Because some of the older books are falling apart a little bit and some of the old photographs have faded over the years.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're in the process of recording up those, bringing those up to date a little more so we can store them easier.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
People will love seeing their pictures.
I think so.
What they looked like back
Yes.
then when we were young.
Yes. Well, not long after they had Schultz Fellowship Hall, the church continued to grow, and there was a big campaign to build the main sanctuary. Do you remember worshiping for the first time in the main sanctuary?
Oh, that was very special. And I can't remember, did we have our beautiful windows at that time?
We did not.
I didn't think so.
We did not.
Yeah, and I can remember when we were able to have them, people donated.
Yes.
And yes. Oh, that was, yeah.
Yeah. And as part of that expansion, they also undertook a project to make a kitchen, in some people's opinion, or expand the old kitchen, which was tiny, more like a closet.
Right.
You remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes, well, especially when I was trying to fix coffee.
Yes.
And other people were in there, and we kind of move around back and forth from each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was quite an experience.
Yeah. And after Sam Day was the pastor, Margaret Rush Hankins became the pastor. You
Yes.
remember Margaret?
Oh, I still remember.
Yes, we still know Margaret.
Yes.
What are some of your memories of her?
Oh, well, she had a morning Bible study for ladies, and I went to that. It was once a week. I was trying to think a while ago as to what day of the week, but I don't remember. But we met at 6:30 in the morning, and there were, half a dozen of us, and she was so willing to come and be with us and be the kind of the negotiator of all the discussions. And we studied books and Bible passages, and yeah, I love her.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
everyone
great.
does.
Yeah.
She was one of the first female pastors in the Rocky Mountain Conference. Did you have any issues with that?
Heavens, no. No, I didn't, and I don't. I'm sure they're probably, and of course then she was divorced, and the people didn't like that, but that didn't bother me. I've just felt it was important to have somebody who could deliver such beautiful messages and something that you understood, you know, it's not highfalutin language where you wonder what the pastor really said.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Well, Margaret was a unique individual in that the church asked her to be a co-pastor, first with Dr. John Lee, and then later with Steve Miller. Do you remember her working with Dr. Lee, John Lee?
I do, yes. It seemed to work well.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then later with Steve Miller.
And then with Steve Miller, yeah. I know some people had an issue there, but I think it was fine.
They were very different personalities, John Lee and Steve Miller, and Margaret seemed to be the bridge that sort of smoothed everything out and
Right.
made things work efficiently with those pastors that she worked with
Yeah.
for all those years. Well, tell us a little bit about what this church and its Christian community has meant to you and to your family.
Well, when we came here, I'm going to cry.
That's okay.
When we came here, we just had our youngest son. He was, we had been in Oregon for 22 years, and John was transferred here, and Steve was a junior in high school. Not a good time to move a kid.
That's right.
But we came early, before we moved. John and I came and looked at homes, and then we brought Steve in and let him kind of choose which high school he wanted to go to. And we went around to some of the different high schools, talked to either a coach, because he liked to play basketball,
Yeah.
or the principal of the school. And then he made the decision he'd like to go to Cherry Creek. So that's why we ended up just a block away,
Yes.
right close to the school, as well as close to Hope eventually. And I can't remember what your question was.
Just about your participation at
Oh.
church and what it meant to you and your family.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think now, and I should have asked him last night because he was here. How often did he go to church with us? I don't remember. But John and I went all the time.
Yes.
And got acquainted, and to me, it has become my church family.
Yes.
When we moved here, several people said, well, are you going to go to St. Andrew? And I said, oh, no.
Which was closer to where you
Yeah,
live now.
oh, I mean, it's just up the street.
Yes.
And I said, no, Hope is my family church, so
Well, that kind of leads.
I hope I can always be there.
We hope so too, Cathy. This may be redundant, but it ties into that, I think. And the next question is sort of what do you like best about Hope Church?
The people. Yeah. I mean, I can remember one time when we were in Portland, and John was head of the, whatever the big committee is. I can't remember the name. And it was during a time when people were marching and being critical of the church, of the people, and our pastor went to, I think it was Seattle, to march. And people just were so upset, and a lot of them left the church. And I can remember John saying at one of the meetings that, the church isn't, the pastor isn't the church is the people.
That's right.
And that's the way I feel.
Yes. Well, you and John were faithful members for many years. You've been an active member for over 38 years now.
Yeah.
What would you like to see Hope accomplish in the next 38 years?
Oh, wow. We'll just keep doing. Just be there. I think it's good that they uh, have little things for the school children, I guess, that go back and forth
Yes.
from school, and let people be aware that this is a church that includes people,
Yes.
and I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. You know, of course, get a good pastor, get somebody who can deliver good messages and that sort of thing too. But I think it's important to have all ages, not just all we old folks, but to bring in the young people. And I know a lot of times when people go to a church and they see people with walkers and canes and breathing problems, and they think, oh, I don't know whether I want to go there. And you know, I think the thing I like about the church is that it does include everybody, and I hope they continue that.
Sharon and I have been encouraged this summer because we had one church service. We typically went to the early service, which has many of the same age category, but we were encouraged that a lot of younger families with children tend to come to the later service. And because we had one service, we saw some of those families that we hadn't seen otherwise.
Yes, yes. I was going to comment that a lot of people think we should go to one service, and I'm not sure that's the answer. But it is nice to see the young ones, and particularly so many of them,
Yes.
like last Sunday, going down and
Well, we had
listening
talked
to
about
the message for the teacher.
Yes, we talked about the children's moments when sometimes we have 2 or 3 kids go down there, but it's been refreshing to see, 20
a
or 30
bunch.
children down
and
there.
different ages.
Yes.
They're not all little tiny ones.
Yes.
And I love that our youth have their musical and will entertain us some Sundays. And I just like Hope Church.
Me too. Well, we've talked about your participation there and your service at the church. Do you have other memories that we haven't talked about, Cathy?
Well, you know, we've talked about the church, but they also have outside, like they have congenial couples,
Yes.
and we were very active in that. Actually, in the very beginning, they even had a couples bridge, and we went to people's homes once a month, and played bridge, and we still have ladies' bridge.
Yes.
And I'm a bridge person, so I really like that. And of course, I know there's another couple's friend, the why nots?
The why not?
That-
That's right.
yeah.
And the congenial couples, I
And
think, are
congenial couple.
2
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah.
Well, many people look at their church as a community of faith, and that community not only means your faith and your spiritual life, but your social life.
That's right.
And you've enjoyed that over the years?
Very, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what makes it my family church.
Do you have special memories of any people or other events that we haven't
people
talked
like
about?
you.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
Bob Grafton.
Yes.
Well, I loved working with Carol Bruton.
She was a gem.
Yeah. We have so many wonderful people. I wouldn't want to start listing because they'd say, well, she didn't mention me.
That's right. We always run that danger.
Yeah. And people laugh about those of us who kind of sit in the same seats all the time. But you get to know those people, and it's wonderful. And on Sundays when we greet people, I get hugs, and
That's right.
I love it.
That's right.
And if I was sitting around in different places, I probably wouldn't get that.
That's true. Well, my grandmother sat in the same place in the same church for years and years and years, to me, that was a comfortable thing.
When we went to one service this year, we left, my children take me, either my granddaughter or my son. And the first time we left here at the same time, went to church, there was somebody sitting in my seat. So I told him we have to leave 5 minutes early.
That's right. Good idea.
I didn't say anything to that person, though, which I've heard people do. They say, that's my seat.
Yes. You're too much of a lady for that confrontation.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Cathy, thank you for your time today, and certainly your service and part of the community we call Hope Church. I appreciate you sitting for this interview for the archives.
Yeah, well, I thank you, and I thank you for all you do. And I must say, you've done a wonderful job taking over for John.
Well, I was going to say I blame this on John. He corralled me one day and said, I want you to be the historian. It's been a blessing for me too.
Yeah, that's been good.
Thank you.